Hey guys, welcome back to another awesome episode of Push the Point, where I have got the first take deck text of the high seas. We've gone pirate mode, and we're back with our brother in arms, Yorgos. How does it feel, man, to be a pirate hunting down all of your foes from Greece?
It seems great. It's so thematic with Greece, with having ships and navy and stuff. That's the thing we love doing. Raiding and pirating and stuff. Yeah, it
Yeah,
seems great.
absolutely. And you've brought along with us to show your first sort of ideas of Marlynn Treasure Hunter. So let's just go through what she does, right? So there's a tap. I mean, I'm not going to go through all of the what does the tap mean. There's plenty of other content creators that can explain what that means. In short, you just tap the hero, right? It's if you know Magic, you tap it. It's almost like a once per turn ability. Anyway, so action tap her. Destroy a gold you control. Create a goldfin harpoon in your hand. Go again. Okay, so a goldfin harpoon is if it's in the tokens, it's basically a pitchless. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, goldfin harpoon. So she creates one of them out of a gold, and then she has this ability on the bottom. It says whenever you draw a card during your action phase, you may put an arrow from your hand face up into your arsenal. Now, Yorgos, break this down to me. This hero ability to me just seems pretty good.
So it's important with this deck and the Ranger class in general that both of the aspects of the hero are pretty important. But first of all, let's talk about the first half.
Yeah.
It's really important that you generate a card into your hand for any discard effects like codexes or cards that ask you to discard a card. So it's really good that you create a card out of thin air. So whenever you're required to discard a card, you can simply discard the harpoon to actually generate some value.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you can activate Marlynn, get a random harpoon, then play a card that says draw and discard that does something. So effectively, you drew a card by whole sequencing. And it's also super important that it's yellow because like all of the new pirate cards that require you to draw and discard, and if you discard a yellow, most of the time you generate a gold.
Yeah.
It's really important that it's a yellow as well. I've played quite a lot of games with this hero. I think I've actually shot the harpoon once. I
Right.
think like 90% of the time when I used this ability, I was using it as as a sacrificial material in order to not discard the card effectively. I don't think I've shot the harpoon once, but that's still pretty good. I mean, sometimes there can be some situations where shooting a random arrow for two is relevant. So
Yeah, it feels like the tiger in in Misfit for Zen, for example. It doesn't matter. It's just it's used as fuel. That's fair. That's fair. Right, now the second half.
So I mean, the second half is what got wild with everyone when this hero was first released, because the obvious first card that came to everyone's mind was Three of a Kind.
Hmm.
And the fact that you can effectively get full value out of your Three of a Kind with this deck is probably one of the main reasons why you want to play this deck. I mean, Three of a Kind is by far your strongest card. It does everything. It draws you card. It gives you resources. You can reload out of the ability, and that's very, very, very strong.
Mm.
And it's an interesting aspect as well that your weapon, your crossbow or something, uh, doesn't have reload. So any effect that says draw and discard or any effect that says draw a card effectively lets us reload, which is something that we cannot do naturally with our weapon. So it's a very important piece of the puzzle, this bottom line text with Marlynn.
Okay. So there is a cheeky of another spot. Like basically, everyone's going to go, well, Death Dealer, right? Don't worry. At the very end, we'll show off the bonus Death Dealer deck. But what we really want to do is just highlight that there's a good chance that over the course of national season, and we don't know for sure, but Azalea could live in legend. If she goes, she takes her Death Dealer bow with her. So now you've got to get used to using Marlynn with different equipment, right? So we'll show it off at the end, but we're probably going to be using the great big harpoon gun as we go. So as we're talking about the harpoon gun, here it is, the Hammerhead harpoon cannon. It costs 4 resources, and you've got to tap it. And your next arrow attack this turn gets +4, and if it's a harpoon in its name, it gets overpowered. Go again. So your thoughts, Yorgos, on this card?
So it was really interesting that this weapon by itself implies that it wants to be played in a deck that runs almost 50% blues.
Mm.
I mean, because that most of the time means you want to be pitching at least 2 blues to activate this weapon. So, first of all, to me, that's really interesting. I mean, it's really interesting that we get to see a completely new thought process and, deck building process of Marlynn. So, I think it's probably the most important piece of the puzzle. It's really interesting that the overpower is on something that you can almost use every turn.
Mm.
And the only downside to it is that currently we don't have too many actually good harpoons.
Right,
So
got ya.
that's, I think, the only current problem we have with Hammerhead harpoon. But otherwise, I think this weapon can actually lead to a lot of way more consistent. The annoying aspect of Azalea, it could lead to that by shooting overpowered over and over again, because there are a lot of decks that really can't handle getting hit by a huge annoying overpowered arrow every single turn.
Yeah, feels like a guardian, right?
Definitely feels like a guardian, and that's really really interesting. I mean, a guardian that effectively is good the longer the game drags out, because you have an amazing weapon. So deck size wise, you are almost ahead, but you don't have a weapon
No,
that attack by itself. Is really super interesting. I think Marlynn is a super interesting hero with this type of build.
absolutely awesome. Right, let's go through the equipment then. Let's start off with let's go with the legs, the new sea laced sarong, which someone's pointed out that a sarong is at the hip. So is this a footwear? I don't know. Anyway, we're vibing. Instant tap this card. Turn a blue arrow in your arsenal face up. It gets go again this turn. Right. So I can see the world of a Death Dealer build with go again arrows and da 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 da. This makes total sense to me. But why did you put this in your big old harpoon deck?
So that legs are also another piece of the puzzle that allow you to run a lot of blues and not feel too bad about it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time you will end up out of a three of a kind or out of a random ponder with a random blue in your arsenal. So you don't really enjoy that. But that boots makes it that it's an okay card if you get it somewhat for free. I
Mm.
mean, shooting a random arrow for 2 go again and a minor hit effect is good enough if you got this card for free, and it also clears your arsenal. It lets you keep attacking. So it's a way to get that to go again value out of your blues, which is pretty standard, I think, compared to most of the top tier decks. That your 3 block blue also, when played offensively, generates a to go again value. So that's there to check this box.
Yeah. Fair enough. That's fair. Right. Well, I feel like the Trench of the Sunken Treasure was picked here because it's got a pirate on it, right? But you're going to tell me another reason why.
So obviously, Tunic is the most powerful chest in the game, and
Yeah.
obviously, Tunic, getting a resource out of thin air is super important. But unfortunately, for this type of list, Trench is required because you need to be able to manipulate your arsenal.
Mm.
And manipulating your arsenal means that sometimes you need to load a different arrow. Sometimes the extra resource might be the resource you need to play three of a kind. So, and as we said already, that a lot of times you get a lot of random cards in your arsenal. It's not like you are missing the three value. Effectively, with this deck, I don't think you ever want to keep a card in arsenal. You want, most of the time you want your arsenal to be free, so you draw 4 cards, you have some way to reload, and you pitch the other cards and shoot a huge harpoon while reloading. But sometimes sometimes a card left. Sometimes you have a ponder. Sometimes you play three of a kind and you do not use fully every single card in your hand. So having access to, I don't care of getting the value, the extra value from my arsenal now. I just need the one resource for some reason, or I simply need to clean my arsenal, is a very important piece of the puzzle for this deck.
That's fair enough. Before I say this words, I'm going to scroll down and just check. Right. You put it in the maybe. I was just going to say, I feel like this is the first time we've done a deck where Yorgos hasn't put in Spring Tunic in the deck. But it's cool to see, right, that every time we do one of these deck techs, people feel like, oh, we need to have we always present Tunic and so on and so forth. It's really cool to see a deck that, yeah, it's not, if you got it right, I imagine it's just not a bad shout, is it, to have
I
it?
mean, sometimes, there are some good interactions with Tunic, don't get me wrong. I mean, sometimes you can, you know, sometimes you have a yellow, so you have a blue and a yellow, so you need two blues to
Mm,
actually do your harpoon and things, so sometimes that's good. And also Tunic helps a lot with codex, so you can flip a blue arrow that costs two and pitch a blue and shoot a forgo again arrow from arsenal, and then play codex, bring a CNC, do the good old command and conquer,
yeah.
but you need Tunic for that. But I felt that you lose, it's way worse when you are stuck with a bad arsenal and you don't have a good way to clear it, rather than getting the one free resource every 3 turns. And the thing is that because this deck draws a lot of cards, and most of the time you don't need to get that 4 value out of every single one of your cards to be good, because you have so many cards that cheat the card advantage. So
Mm.
don't actually mind losing a bit of value there. It's way more important to actually have access to it.
No,
So I
that's cool.
think
That's cool.
I think I've left Tunic there mainly because I think there could be changes in the deck that could result in Tunic actually being the better chest. But with this version of the deck, I think even if you have Tunic, you are supposed to be playing Trench of the Sunken Treasure.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. Right, bullseye bracers. I can actually envision why this is there because just being able to clear a card from your hand and you don't have a draw card and you just go slam, go, just press the button. Is that pretty much?
It's a safety button versus matchups where you don't get a lot of cards versus more aggressive decks where sometimes you need to block a lot and maybe you don't have the luxury of keeping all of your hand in order to draw. Sometimes it's required to have a manual button that lets reload the card.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Right now, Crown of Providence. Now, okay, my head went to New Horizons. You went to Crown of Providence.
I was literally playing this deck with New Horizons since I made the first draft until yesterday or something. So I was
Right,
testing with New Horizons, but it ended up that New Horizons was relevant not often enough.
right.
You know, so in the same sense that you care about sometimes simply clearing the arsenal, having access to Providence and once per game doing that without losing any value at all, like simply Providence and get a new card, and sometimes that could help you keep your consistency up. I felt like it was quite important, but I think every single one of the three heads, Providence, New Horizons, and Balance of Justice, I think all of three of them make some sense.
Yeah,
I think it would be fine running any three of them.
nice, nice. So that's your main sort of equipment, and you've got a quiver and the quiver of rustling leaves. But really good quiver, right? It's back. Lexi's here. Ah!
The thing with this Weaver compared to more traditional Ranger builds is that your deck runs 27 blues.
Mm,
So actually, sometimes it's way more important that you play three of a kind, you draw a bunch of cards, and you don't have the arrow you are happy with. Sometimes you have the spare resources to be like, okay, I'll pitch a blue to look at the top card of my deck, and if it's a good arrow, I'd rather shoot that rather
mm,
than the random arrow. So it's way more. The opportunity cost of using Quiver in this deck is much lower compared to like New Horizons, Azalea builds we've seen with 3 blues or something like that. So
Mm.
it's a completely different mindset. So, and I don't feel like you can actually get fatigued with this deck. I don't think realistically you can get fatigued unless there are some very specific strategies. So I don't think the Quiver of Abyssal Depths would accomplish anything.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And if that is this one, if everyone was wondering, because we all sit there going, "Oh, it's the Krakeny looking one. Oh, you got to put it in, bro." But yeah, no, I mean, it'll come up. It's cool to have when it comes up. If you're ever getting into a spot where you are probably getting fatigued, but if not, go with the Quiver of Rustling Leaves, man. That's really cool. Right, let's get into the deck. We've got a 60 card deck here. So you've got 14 cards in the inventory, and we'll lace through there. How? I suppose really what I think is not the cards I feel that are non-movable are ones that says harpoon on it and the pump effects that affect harpoons, right? So instead of going over it too much mad in detail, let's just sort of go over the harpoon side of things, yeah? So we've got King Kraken harpoon, and we've got the King Shark harpoon. So Kraken, not Kraken, says go fish. When this hits a hero, they choose and reveal a card from their hand. If it's a non-attack action card, they discard it, and you get a gold. If you've activated a cannon this turn, instead look at their hand and you choose the card. And then the King Shark is basically the same, but looking for attack action cards, right? So if you activated your harpoon, which is this big boy here, then you get to pick. But even if you didn't, bro, I mean, it feels like we're pummeling like mad with these two. These are your big boy harpoons. Is there anything more to explain that these are your like slappers for harpoon?
I think in order to win a game with Marlynn, you need to shoot these 2 harpoons as many times as possible and with activating your weapon as many times as possible. That's how you win game. I
Yeah.
mean, you block with 2 cards, you pitch 2 blues, you activate your weapon, you shoot a king harpoon for 10. If it hits, you generate a gold and you disrupt them. And next turn, you do the same and again and again. And that's how you care to win games because 10 overpower is a big number. I mean, most decks can't easily prevent that. And it's a good spread that, sometimes the attack harpoon is much better, sometimes the non-attack harpoon is much better. But I feel like that at the state of Flesh and Blood right now, most decks have both.
Mm.
So unless very specific situations like Syndra, for example, uh, both your harpoons will be quite active, and messing around with the opponent is how you want to, is the guardian aspect of Marlyn. So,
Yeah.
and that's really interesting.
Yeah, that's fair. And then in terms of the other sort of harpoons here, we've got the bluefin harpoon, the yellowfin harpoon, and the redfin harpoon. So all of them say go fish. When this hits a hero, they choose and reveal a card from their hand. If it's the red harpoon, if it's a red card, they discard it. It's kind of like just the other 2 kingfish harpoons. Now the red fin's looking for red, yellow fin's looking for yellow, and blue fin's looking for blue. If you've discarded it, then you get to get a card. But if you activated a cannon this turn, you get to look at their hand. So they're the same, right? But of lower power, higher pitch, and yeah, I mean these harpoons are sick. Let's be real.
They are really good. They are the best filler cards this deck could have asked to, because most of the times when you block with 2 cards and you keep a 2-card hand and you pitch a blue and play 3 of a kind to refill your hand, getting whichever harpoon is fine, even if you get a blue one, and that's pretty great. The only problem is that there is a big difference between these and the other ones, and obviously it's the 2 power difference. Because
Mm.
8 overpower sometimes, even with versus aggressive decks, sometimes it's with a single D react and a single card and a single piece of equipment. Sometimes they can block that. So most of the time you are not loving to shoot a harpoon that could also potentially miss. But it's very good that in total you have 15 harpoons, and 15 harpoons is about, it's exactly 1/4 of your deck. So you should have at least one harpoon to work around every single hand. So that's good enough.
Yeah, that's fair. I will just ask, and some people sort the yellowfin harpoon, just some like rumors or whatever going around, going, oh, but it's yellow, but they're probably not going to have a yellow, but still, bro, discarding a card is good, right? Is that pretty much the response?
I mean, most of the time, yellow harpoon is not the one you're looking to play, but sometimes I mean, if you've blocked with two cards and then played three of a kind, and oh well, you got a yellow fish harpoon and you shoot for eight, even with no hit effect. I mean, you've blocked six and you presented eight on your bad turn. I mean, the numbers are still there. I mean, I don't think there would exist a 2/4 blue arrow, even if it didn't say harpoon, that I would not add to this deck. If I had any 2/4 blue arrow, I would probably add it to the deck. So even if Yellowfin Harpoon was blank, it was probably good enough to be in the deck.
Yeah, that's fair. Plus, it's a blue block 3, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Solid. It's a solid blue block 3. Okay, so there's your harpoons, and then you've got big game trophy shot, which is your next arrow attack this turn gets +4. If it's got a harpoon in the name, it gets when this hits a hero, create a gold token, draw a card, then discard a card. This is your majestic big pump shot card for the harpoons, right?
yeah, I mean, it's quite relevant that it generates gold because we don't have too many ways of generating gold. So having that text on such a powerful card is already pretty good enough. And this is the only card right now in this list that actually manipulates the way we said earlier with drawing and discard. So most of the time, what you're looking to do with this is that you want to activate Marlynn, get the harpoon and discard it for free, do your reload, and effectively you draw a card, have resources to play your other big harpoon and give him the +4. And the +4 is a lot of damage. A lot of extra damage.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Right.
I want to do a quick note here
Oh, yeah.
that I want to do a quick note that if you go down the maybe list, there is a card called Golden Tipple, a red, which also has pretty much the same effect.
Got down in the maybes a card called
Golden Tipple.
Golden Tip. Oh, Golden Tipple. Yeah.
Okay, so this card was brought to my attention by George Melisakis. He was a huge advocate of this card for this list because it's another effect that lets you discard a yellow and do that, which is quite important. It was really hard for me to cut this card to cut this card from the main deck, and I think it should be a huge consideration if you want to be more aggressive with this style of deck, because having access to more cards that do the same effect of you discarding the free card you get out of Marlin in order to draw a card is quite important. But on the current variation of the list, the only card is the big game trophy shot.
Sure. Okay, that's cool. I had a lot of people talking about Golden Tipple, so yeah, and yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Right, let's go through. Let's talk about your big. Let's talk about your big hitters. I think, or do you want to go through your card draw resource mechanic? What's the most important thing to sort of approach here?
I mean, it's let's go through the threats of the deck. I mean, let's go through the red ones first.
Sure. So, yeah. Well, you tell us. What I imagine you're just going to say Conquer the High Seas in a minute, right?
Yeah, obviously. So, Command and Conquer is it's a good addition to this deck because sometimes it's hard for you to reload, and playing Command and Conquer is a good off turn.
Yeah.
Because you can, you don't have an easy way to reload, or you do some weird things to reload. So it's a disruptive card. It costs 2, which this deck doesn't really care because it has a lot of resources. So it's a good off-turn card, Command and Conquer, and it helps with the consistency of Conqueror of the High Seas.
Yes!
It's amazing. I
love
think this card
it.
Beyond broken.
It's so good. It's so good, right?
I mean, this card literally does everything in this deck. I mean, it has Go Again, which this deck doesn't have access to a lot to. It's the perfect card to when you have a lot of resources in hand to actually use because you run a lot of blues and sometimes you simply get flooded. So Conqueror really helps you with that. It will generate gold if this card, goes through and annoys the opponent. So this card is amazing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I can't express it enough.
No, no, it is. It is. As someone that's been playing a fair bit of Gravy, I just played this once and went, this is sick. Okay, this like even when you just read it, you go, yeah, it's good, it's good. You just play it once and you just like, this is silly. 8 Go Again with on hit destruction. The gold bit is just like, there you go. Ta-da! It's
Get a
just,
gold as well,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's just
And the most threatening part, that's why this card has 10 out of 10 in flavor. I mean, it's that most of the time you're like, okay, pitch to blues, 8 Go Again, threatening your arsenal, and that's the beginning of my turn.
yeah. We're just starting.
It's an action point. I'm not done yet. That's simply the beginning of my turn.
I love it. Yeah, I think this is so far like the king. It is the king of cards for this whole set in terms of offensive. E-strike, yeah, makes sense, right? Go again. The versatility of it, the draw a card element of it. This card just seems what makes a lot of sense in this deck.
I mean, it's everything we've already said pretty much that the 5 draw is most of the time fine because if you get a red, perfect. If you get a blue and it's an arrow, you can shoot it for free next turn.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a card you don't really need, you can simply trench it. So there is most of the time no cost at doing 5 draw a card, and that's a good turn when your hand doesn't operate greatly. And
Mm.
and on the complete opposite spectrum, it's great when you're planning on playing a 3 of a kind, so you can just cash in the rest of your hand and play a 5 Go Again with this strike, and then play a 3 of a kind to get the resources to keep your turn going. So this card is a good filler, and it's also good to have another attack that is not bound to your arsenal, so you have a bit more flexibility when you're playing long games, because most games with Marlyn are long.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. And then you've gone for infected shot. Infected shots. Got to be one of
Yeah,
the
I mean,
yeah.
Infecting Shot was great because I needed an arrow that's quite relevant always versus all opponents, and threatening the opponent's life total is something that you really want to do with this deck.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted a 1 cost arrow to have access with Codex because it's really easy to use trends, play Codex, fetch an infecting, shoot an infecting, and do the old, block with my whole hand, keep a Codex, and have a turn line.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to have a 1 cost arrow in the list. And even when you do your whole thing with draw, discard, load, activate weapon, shooting an infecting shot for 9, even though it doesn't have overpower, it's still a lot of damage. It will drain the opponent's life as well quite fast, and that's something you're looking to do with Marlin.
That's fair. Now, I'm just going to sort of jimmy on down to the inventory here because I've seen Barb Barrage, Battering Bolt, and Remorseless, right? Are these cards slotting in over infecting shocks, or am I getting the wrong idea of these cards?
I mean, it most of the time it depends on the matchup.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
if you're playing versus an aggressive deck, you much rather have remorseless, right, rather
yeah,
than having fighting shot. So most of the time, yes, that's the case. But also sometimes you simply cut the defensive cards like return fire,
yeah,
and you all in on always having threats, etc. And battering bolt mainly is there because the warrior matchup feels horrible because they don't really care about overpower.
mm,
So you need to have a relevant arrow for them because King's Kraken most of the time might not have an effect. King's Shark might also sometimes not have an effect. So you need to have this game plan. No, I'm shooting a huge arrow to you. You need to interact with that no matter what. That's why we need Battering Bolt, because I feel like versus classes that can play around that, assassins as well,
mm-hmm.
sometimes you need the card.
Yeah, and then the Barbed Barrage.
So there is a universe versus where with decks like Gravy, you simply want to have a really slow game plan. But I found that it's most of the time it's much easier to simply keep threatening them, and the pay an additional three most of the time is almost not a cost on this deck. You most of the time will have that extra blue to pitch,
Mm.
and versus Prism, killing an angel and dealing some damage, versus Gravy to keep the pressure up so they don't have time to set their whole thing and also kill a key ally is a card that you need because, as you've obviously noticed, there is not a lot of go again going in this deck.
No.
We need to cheat a few action points versus these decks that can actually develop a board.
Okay, that's fair. I love the gravy respect inclusion. You got to respect the gravy, right? And I'm curious, as we're seeing it, how this sort of works out into Prism, right? I can imagine if you did get a way to buff this arrow up to a high degree, would you fire that arrow into the angels to clear angels, or would you fire that arrow into Prism to get the effect? Although it feels like you got to fire it into the angels, right? Because even if you did go over, you've killed the angel. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but versus Prism, the important part is that I think that versus Rangers, some Prisms want to go with the aura plan. So shooting an arrow for them for 9 and clearing a merciful is still good enough. I mean, I would take this trade like every single time because you can also shoot.
It's not. It's my head went into a space of going, oh, it's gonna kill ally, but it's an additional target, so you just go, bam, and then it's a way of just deal damage, clear aura in one move. It's feels very much like something Guardian could really do with, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
But give us an attack that pays an additional 3 attack twice in Guardian, yeah.
That's it's a cool card, really cool card. In terms of the payoff side of things, then is that pretty much where we're at in terms of the big payoff cards? We've got the harpoons, and we've got these other strong attacks with it. So that's your offensive side of things. Is that kind of wrapped all that up? Yeah, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about some draw. Well, yeah, let's talk about draw cards. These are the fun bits, right? Let's go. Bam, kick it off. 3 of a kind. It's awesome. It feels like this card has been sitting there since Arcane Rising. I know all of that stuff is Azalea, right? But I could see this this looks piratey to me.
Yeah, I mean, the amazing part about 3 of a kind in this deck is that most of the time you don't play 3 of a kind to find a card, an arrow. Most of the time you're playing 3 of a kind because you need the extra resources. And that's really interesting. I mean, you might have, or you might already have a harpoon in arsenal, but because you've blocked, you don't have the 2 blues you need to activate harpoon and shoot the arrow. So what are you doing? You're playing a 3 of a kind out of a yellow, and you draw 3 cards, and most of the time you will get 2 blues and something, so you can pitch 2 blues and do your thing and still keep an arsenal. So a lot of times you play 3 of a kind to simply find resources, and also the added benefit that sometimes you keep a hand where you have your harpoon in hand already, you have 3 of a kind and a random card, so you simply play 3 of a kind to actually reload. That's the main reason why you're playing 3 of a kind. It's super strong. I mean, in this deck, it literally does everything. I mean, it feels like 3 of a kind got printed with literally Marlynn in mind.
Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of outcry of saying ban this card. How crazy is this card? Right? Is it too strong? Is it, or does it feel kind of actually like, you know what? Actually, it keeps me in the game. I like cards that keep you in the game, but not like, I don't know. Not like what's the dragon from Enigma? It's gone for 2 seconds. It's already left my mind.
The Mirror Guy.
Yeah. That's just too. That's too much. Like that felt like that's too much. This card what's your thoughts on? Is it too much or fine?
In this deck, this card is actually better than Codex, which says a lot. But I
Okay,
think the
that's
main. But wait, I have disclaimer.
yeah,
Wait. But the reason that is that because in this particular type of deck, Codex is not good enough.
right.
Because in this type of deck, I mean, Codex has good uses on very specific situations. It's not, Codex of Frailty is not the card you always love to see with this deck. And I don't think it's too much because most of the time what it does is that it helps you get this overwhelming card advantage because the rest of your deck is slightly below rate on everything. So it's actually a good card. I mean, without Three of a Kind, this deck wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Without Three of a Kind, I don't think you could play a deck that needs 6 resources every single turn to shoot an attack.
Okay. So if Death Dealer was gone and they banned Three of a Kind, do you think like Marlyn in general just kind of not work?
I think it would put a nail in the coffin for this list. We will talk about Death Dealer later. I mean, in the Death Dealer, Marlyn, the Three of a Kind is silly, but that's a problem we probably in a few weeks we won't have to worry about because Azalea will hit Living Legend status.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Right. I think Big Game Shark, we have talked about it. Kind of slots into that sort of camp, does it? Because of the draw discard? Or is that just? Or is it the +4?
I mean, it's the thing that does both. I mean, it does everything mid plus, but it does everything.
Yeah.
It's a draw discard, it's generate golds, and it's a buff. So it's a good extender. So
yeah.
There is literally no reason not to run this card in every single matchup when playing the Harpoon variants of Marlyn.
Yeah, Codex of Frailty. It's Codex of Frailty, right? Like.
I think the best use of Codex of Frailty with this deck is when you have a 3-card hand, you pitch 2 blues, you activate your weapon, and then you play Codex to bring again one of the big relevant harpoons.
Yeah.
And that's an important piece of this deck because you only have 6 really good harpoons, so you want to keep playing them over and over. So Codex of Frailty helps a lot in that aspect, but that's the only thing it does.
Okay, fair enough. And then Codex of Bloodrot. You're a man that likes these different types of spooky looking books, so explain yourself. Why are we gone for the Bloodrot?
So there are 2 reasons. On that slot, I used to run Take Aim. I used to have in that specific slot, I used to have Take Aim. I have it in the maybe list. And the main reason is that sometimes you simply want to reload. The metrical effect is that you simply need to reload. So Take Aim gives +3, Codex of Bloodrot, gives the Bloodrot, gets a Ponder, it's quite close, which is better. But the important aspect of Codex of Bloodrot in this list is the fact that you have 6 different cards that target Arsenal. So doing like a Codex of Bloodrot into force the opponent to add a card in Arsenal and then play Conqueror of the High Seas or play a Command and Conquer afterwards. I mean, that forces them into a situation where they need to respect your disruption, and you need to get this tempo advantage with this deck because if one harpoon misses and then you get a hand with a CNC and they don't have an arsenal, and then again they have no arsenal and you have a King of the High Seas, you could be dead without having any relevant hit effects whole game. So Codex of Bloodrot sometimes helps glue this together.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And then we've got this is a defensive card. So Return Fire, right?
Sorry.
Go.
Fire, when sideboarding with this deck, if you want to be more on the defensive side, because again that was a slot where we need a card to reload, that's when Take Cover comes in. I mean, when you want to add Take Cover in the list, you can cut Codex of Bloodrot because it does pretty much the same thing. It helps you reload while having a better defensive value. So versus a more aggressive strategy like Syndra or any aggressive deck, you'd much rather have a 4-block card that helps you reload rather than have a 2-block card that helps you reload.
No, that's fair. I mean, we were just about talking about defensive blocking cards anyway, so thank you. So Take Cover, yeah, that's you swap that out for the reload mechanic of Codex, but in a defensive fashion. And while we're still keeping on the defensive talk, Return Fire is a 4-block ranger card. When this defends, you may banish an arrow from your hand. If you do, at the start of your turn, put it face up into your arsenal, and it gets +3 until the end of turn. Right, so it seems a bit good, right?
This card is insane. I mean, everyone can figure out that the numbers on this card when this works are enormous. I mean, like doing a 0 for 7 with helping you reload. That's insane. So I've really tested this card into every single, variation of Marlynn. And I think the best sell for Return Fire is actually this type of deck because you also care about the reload aspect.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that you simply want to get the 4 value block and the +3, but you also care a lot about the reload aspect, and that helps a lot to smooth out your hand. And Return Fire is also another reason why we chose to go with Friends of the Sentient Treasure.
Mm.
Because again, with this deck, out of the 6 ponders and 3 of a kinds, a lot of times you will have random cards in Arsenal. So when you're doing the remove the card from Arsenal with Trends in order to be able to reload next turn with Return Fire, and most people are correctly about that, you effectively lost 3 value to do Return Fire. So effectively Return Fire, all it did was block 4. That's not exactly the case with this deck because most of your blues will not get the 3 value. Most of your random cards might not get the 3 values, and you get these cards for free. So Return Fire is an actually really important piece on keeping that, getting a lot of value while blocking, and actually still threatening them every turn with a big number with an annoying hit.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. So we kind of went through all the main bits, and we'll just sort of wrap this up for the blues, so we can get on and talk a bit about your other cool Death Dealer deck. So we've got the battalion. First off, I'm just going to say this, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. They're blue block threes, right? Right, but these are the decent blue block threes that you picked. We've obviously went through the blue fin harpoons already. We've got drill shot, solid blue block three card, right?
Yeah, and it's that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a 0-cost arrow that attacks for 2 and has an annoying hit effect. So drill shot checks every single box.
Yeah.
So
Same with shearing shot, and same with Merkmire grappler. We're going for Merkmire because it's a 0 cost. Is there any other reason?
I mean, you don't. Sometimes it could be annoying into a matchup where It's a bit hard to navigate, which is Prism.
Mm.
So sometimes randomly having the upside of shooting a 2 go again that the opponent needs to block with a card, otherwise you kill an angel, is pretty good.
Yeah. Pretty good. That's fair. That's fair. And then we'll go for these 3 other cards. We'll start off with the ship, the Battalion Baruch. It's high tide. If there are 2 more blues in this card, it gets +2, so it becomes a 4 for 7 blue. That's pretty good, right? 4 for 7 blue.
I mean, this card was. I really wanted to run the red one as well because I really like the numbers in this card. And the reason why we chose this card as blue is that it gives us a bit of insurance towards the later stages of the game. That's why as well I don't feel like this deck is easily fatigued. Is that when we get to the stage where we simply get 4 blues every single turn, our 4 blues meaning we can attack for 7 and sometimes even with another go again from Arsenal is quite insane because you have a blue harpoon in Arsenal, you flip it, it has go again, you shoot it, and then you pitch another blue and you shoot another battalion bark for 7. So you did that 4 card 11 out of 4 blues. I mean, it's pretty great.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And then Sunken Treasure. It's a blue block 3. And when it's defends, you may turn a card in your graveyard face down. If it's yellow, create a gold token. Is this targeting them, targeting you? Is it just the flexibility of this card, picking and choosing the best bit?
I think this card is quite important because it's another card that generates value while defending.
Mm-hmm.
and the opportunity cost is really minimal because it's a blue block 3, and even if somehow it gets into Arsenal, we still have trends. So the upside is decent, the bar is pretty high. So yeah, this card just checks everything, and actually generating the first few pieces of gold with this deck is quite important because whenever you have a gold, you can manually reload. You don't have any other way to reload, and you are always active for big game trophy shots. So that's another gold generation we have in order to keep the consistency around.
And then tip the barkeep. Create a gold kiss rum token. You may give a gold you control to the. If you do, put this on the bottom of your deck. So why is this one in? I know it's blue bot free, but why this one?
So my hot take on high seas is that after Conqueror of the High Seas, Tip the Barkeep is the strongest pirate card they've printed.
Right.
I mean, Tip the Barkeep does literally everything in some cases with minimal costs. I mean, it's a blue block trick with Guardian. It checks every box already, and you create a gold kiss ram that stays until you need it. So
Yeah.
you can play it turn 0. You can play it when the opponent did a weak turn and you had an extra card. You can simply play Tip the Barkeep, and when you need it, it's great because we don't have many ways of getting go again with this deck. So giving go again to a CNC, giving go again to an E strike, turning the E strike into 5 draw, reload, go again, does everything, shooting an arrow, then playing Codex and shoot the arrow again. It opens a lot of play patterns at the minimal cost of being a blue block 3 with go again in your deck.
It's very strong. I can tell you that it is very strong. Being able to have just a quicken, but at your leisure. Oh, any card that's an action. Yeah, all right, it's pretty good. That's pretty good. Right. So thank you so much, Yorgos, for showing off the harpoon deck. So let's switch over to the Death Dealer deck. Maybe this will see some national play. All right, we're here. It's Death Dealer time. All right, we're not going to go nutso on everything, right? It's just a quick sort of overview. So New Horizons is in, right? Because we're just loading up, man. We're loading up hot, right? We've got a lot of the same sort of equipment. We've got we've got Snapdragons because this is an aggressive aggro deck, right?
I mean, you simply need to kill them in. Sometimes this deck does IO things, Sometimes
Okay.
this deck does. So you're a super aggro deck. You never block. You simply shoot every arrow every turn and hope they're dead soon
Fair.
enough.
Fair enough. This is a deck where it's just do or die, right? You just do or die. You're gonna get fatigued if you're not killing them. That's it, right? And yeah, this I can already see we've got like 9 bolt shots, Falcon Wing, obviously. Where's that? Where's that? I'm surprised. Where's that new card? The one that is a 0 for 4. Go again.
Oh, it's not. Oh, it's not. Oh,
Okay, there's a 0 for 4 go again, and that's meant to
yeah,
be in this
there's a
deck,
zero.
right? I was good.
I sent an older version. We changed that on the description. So yeah, there is obviously the 0 for 4 go again in the league. I mean, so effectively, what you're trying to do with this deck is that most of the time you simply want to pair a Rain Razors. You have Rain Razors,
Yeah,
Rapid Fire, and Three of a Kind. And again, as I've tested this deck a lot with George. That's why I'm quoting him so much. As George Melisaki said, simply get 2 out of these 3 cards and kill the opponent. I mean, it's as simple as that.
right.
You need 2 out of these 3 cards, like Rapid Fire, Rain Racers, and Three of a Kind. And if you get 2 of them, you have a simple big turn. If you get all 3 of them, what you're doing is beyond, sometimes when things roll in the correct order are silly. I honestly, it was a huge surprise to me in the latest ban and restricted announcement that Death Dealer was not getting hit because the interaction of Death Dealer with Marlynn, where you pay 1, you draw a card, you reload, and then you reload again, and you shoot more arrows on your Three of a Kind turn where you have already played Rapid Fire. I mean, it's silly. it's super silly.
It looks beautiful, man. So don't get me wrong, everyone. You're gonna look at there's a deck link below, and it will be updated with the 0 for 4 arrow, obviously. But yeah, we'll just play around with this, right? Have fun. It won't last. It might last. You never know. It'll be kind of wild if this new Death Dealer deck does actually just make Azalea go, oh no, I can't. Oh, who knows? We'll see what happens. But yeah, this deck does look pretty wild. But let's go back. Thank you so much, Yorgos, for showing off Marlynn the Treasure Hunter. It's your first take. Go now and pick up your high seas decks and from single sellers. And again, if you're from the UK, we've got Thistle Tavern that offers 10% off to all singles. And go to, if not, go to your local game store and pick up some high seas, man. Because get ready for the nationals. It's gonna be, we're gonna go hunting for treasure. See you later, everyone.